As Zhang Yi stares at his phone, his memory of Xing Wenan flooded in his mind. Xing Wenan was his classmate from elementary and junior high school, both of them living in the same neighborhood. And although their relationship wasn't particularly close, they had been classmates for 3 years, often playing together. However, in terms of academic performance, Xing Wenan was not good. When Zhang Yi moved to a new neighborhood with his family, he rarely saw him. It was said that Xing Wenan later became a steel worker like his father. After pondering silently for a moment, Zhang Yi became very suspicious of his intentions. He might have been his old friend, but his sudden appearance after a long time was indeed very convenient. His sudden appearance surely held some special significance, not just for borrowing supplies. Perhaps having survived through the apocalypse for so long, meeting an old friend again made Zhang Yi feel somewhat emotional. After some thought, Zhang Yi decided to reply to the message. "I'm still alive, and how about you?" Xing Wenan burst into a big laugh. "It's really you. You're still alive. Huh? I never expected you to become so powerful. But I'm not lagging behind either. I'm now the manager of the largest steel mill in the Emerald Waterside district. How about that, old friend? I'm not too bad either." There was an excited tone in Xing Wenan's words that couldn't be described. Felt like he was boasting. However, as Zhang Yi read these messages, he felt that something was off. Isn't the largest steel mill in Emerald Waterside district located in the Qingku area? Has Xing Wenan become the manager there? Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes, staring at his phone before replying. "So, you're the boss of the Emerald Waterside base now?" Just a moment later, Xing Wenan sent a reply. "Writing is too troublesome. You know me, my literacy level isn't high. Let's talk over the phone." After reading the message, Zhang Yi pressed the call button. "Isn't the leader of the Emerald Waterside base named Xing Tian? Why did you change your name?" Xing Wenan chuckled. "I felt that the name Xing Wenan wasn't imposing enough. Not enough to command others, so I changed it. Doesn't the name Xing Tian sound quite majestic?" Upon hearing this, I smiled faintly. The act of changing one's name to seek confidence often indicated a lack of inner confidence. Based on the information Zhang Yi had gathered, Xing Tian possessed extremely powerful abilities that formed the foundation for his successful leadership. Zhang Yi asked, "Why the sudden contact? What do you want to talk about?" Zhang Yi's attitude made Xing Wenan at the other end of the phone silent for a moment. Zhang Yi thought to himself it might be better to address him as Xing Tian. After all, now he is a significant figure, and people like him never like to mention their impoverished past, even their old names. Xing Tian chuckled. "I thought we'd have a chance to chat for a while. Remember back in school? I wasn't anything special, unlike you. You had the looks that many girls admired, and your academic achievements were quite impressive." Taking a deep breath, he sighed. "Who would have thought that one day I would also rise like a kite in the wind?" Zhang Yi lightly chuckled, not particularly bothered by Xing Tian's demeanor. Most people, when they go from poor to rich too quickly, tend to have such attitudes. Zhang Yi addressed Xing Tian. "We can talk about the old days later, but you didn't seek me out today just to reminisce, did you? My curiosity is piqued, so why don't you just come out with your purpose?" At the other end of the phone line, Xing Tian furrowed his brow. Zhang Yi's attitude didn't satisfy Xing Tian's expectations. Did he hope to hear Zhang Yi's surprise? "Did you become the manager of the Bao Steel Mill? Or perhaps, I don't believe you. You, who wasn't outstanding in our class, have suddenly risen like this." But Zhang Yi didn't react as Xing Tian had hoped, leaving him feeling deflated. Xing Tian sat up, his tone becoming more serious. "All right, let's talk about the main issue. Zhang Yi, haven't you killed people from Radiant Prosperity Base and Morning Dew Base before? Now they're determined to deal with you. And it's not just those 2 bases. For their safety, they've invited my base and the Snow Worship sect to join. If all 4 factions attack simultaneously, you'll be in big trouble." A sharp glint flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. For factions? He had no conflict with Snow Worship sect or the Emerald Waterside base. The fact that the Radiant Prosperity Base and Morning Dew Base were after him didn't surprise him. But he hadn't expected that this alliance would include all the top factions in the entire city. If that's the case, the pressure he'll face just multiplied. Zhang Yi felt anxious about this difficult situation. Keeping a calm demeanor, Zhang Yi asked, "So, are you here to declare war?" Xing Tian chuckled lightly. "Old Zhang, what kind of era do you think we are in now? Who still talks about declaring war like this? If I truly wanted to attack you, it would definitely be a surprise assault. This time, I came to either reconcile or reconsider our old friendship. I just wanted to discuss something with you." Recalling his school days when his academic performance wasn't great and he had no luck with women, he felt like a lonely figure among his classmates. Zhang Yi didn't belittle him back then, he even helped him with assignments. But now that he's successful, Xing Tian wanted to help his old schoolmate and showcase his success. Zhang Yi said, "Whatever you want to discuss, just tell me." Obviously, the Snow worship sect and I have no grudges in this war. And I might not participate, but you need to offer reasonable terms. Emerald Waterside Base doesn't want a full-blown out war. The steel mill workers prefer peaceful lives, and their current lives are pretty good. But once war breaks out, there will surely be casualties. They don't want to face this, so they want us to stay out of this war. At the very least, you have to offer them 10,000 units of food. Zhang Yi furrowed his brow. 10,000 units of food. He pondered. He remembered Xing Tian's consistently poor academic performance, especially in math, where he rarely scored above 40%. Would Xing Tian think that's a large quantity? Was this the confidence of a newly successful student? It's not that Zhang Yi looked down on Xing Tian, but in his storage, just browsing a few shelves would yield over 10,000 units of food. Zhang Yi spoke to Xing Tian, this matter requires some thought. Regardless, your demands are quite substantial in terms of provisions. We need some time. Xing Tian replied, agreed. I will give you a day to consider. No more. Provide me with your answer before noon tomorrow. He took a deep breath and said, old friend, you should agree. Otherwise, I truly do not wish to encounter you on the battlefield. Hearing this, Zhang Yi also didn't want that. So Zhang Yi somewhat tentatively agreed. The conversation between Zhang Yi and Xing Tian ended. Zhang Yi leaned back into the soft salon chair, basking in the warm and gentle light from the lamp overhead enveloping his figure. Then he began to ponder. A ton of food wasn't much for him. He could either take it from the West Mountain Base's warehouse or provide him with canned goods. The issue of supplies was easy for Zhang Yi to resolve. But Zhang Yi worried about whether he could trust him. If not for concerns about external dangers, he could join Su Chunlei in searching for buried supermarkets under the snow to excavate and transport. But Zhang Yi didn't want to take risks. It had been a while since he last saw Xing Tian, and people's character were always change, especially during the snow apocalypse. Zhang Yi carefully considered his strategy. I might agree, but only with a partial upfront deposit. When the war ends, if the Emerald Waterside Base satisfies me, I'll pay the rest. This conversation with Xing Tian was unexpected for Zhang Yi. However, it provided him with crucial information. Firstly, Zhang Yi's hideout might face an attack from the coalition forces of the 4 largest powers in the city. Secondly, this attack would be carried out quickly. Zhang Yi was competent in the defensive capabilities of his hideout. The 4 houses had no deep-seated conflict with him. If the benefits didn't outweigh the risks, they would choose to abandon the attack. Zhang Yi logically prepared for the worst-case scenario and then fought a brutal battle to shift the entire power dynamic in the city to achieve peace. Zhang Yi decided to cooperate with the Emerald Waterside Base. In the living room, a quick meeting was convened by Zhang Yi, summoning everyone. He briefed them on the situation, informing them of the impending attack by the coalition of the 4 major powers. The faces of everyone turned extremely serious. This pressure could be more daunting than fighting against the West Mountain Base. However, Yang Xingxing calmly stated, I think the situation isn't as dire as it seems. Despite their alliance, these 4 powers still harbor distrust among themselves. Only Radiant Prosperity Base and Morning Dew Base have conflicts with us. The Snow Worship Sect and Emerald Waterside Base are just being pulled into it. Without fundamental conflicts, they will hesitate in their attack, they might not commit fully. If we persuade the Emerald Waterside Base not to engage, our pressure will decrease. Everyone nodded in agreement with Yang Xingxing's words. Uncle Yu also spoke up, our biggest weakness is our limited numbers. If the enemy outnumbers us, we'll be at a disadvantage. In the division of forces before the battle, we can utilize defensive positions to withstand the initial assault. Zhang Yi pointed towards a map in front of him and continued, the surrounding hideout area is not heavily exposed. Behind us are 2 low mountains forming a natural barrier, plus the heavy snow. The enemy cannot easily launch attacks from the mountains. So, we primarily face the enemy from a wide angle of about 120 to 180 degrees. Zhang Yi pointed to the map, drawing lines and distributions. Our main firepower is also concentrated in this area. Our goal is not to defeat them, but to push them back, making them realize we are the strongest force in the region. Zhang Yi continued, after the battle, I will negotiate with them, turning the surrounding hideout area into a restricted zone, denying them access. At this point, Chunlei furrowed his brow, expressing his concern. But even when facing simultaneous attacks from 3 sides, the pressure remains significant. It seems like our first line of defense will quickly crumble, and we'll have to retreat to the hideout for defense. The current issue was that our 2 strongest points in defense were the hideout and the space door. But what if the enemy, with numerous people, attacked simultaneously and utilized various methods of attack? If they had a way to breach the hideout, what would we do? Chunlei raised his hand. Anyway, the Radiant Prosperity Base holds a large reserve of oil resources. They could use many large devices and transport them here. The enemy might even possess mutants with abilities we're not aware of. Shenlei's words brought tension to everyone. Mutants were always the most unpredictable factor. However, after hearing this, Zhang Yi remained calm. These issues need not worry anyone. If they truly arise, we will handle them. Zhang Yi was an advocate for peace and disliked war, but that didn't mean he lacked strength. After the battle with the West Mountain base, Zhang Yi had absorbed the energy of 4 other mutants. The extent of Zhang Yi's power was currently unknown to anyone. While everyone was discussing fervently, Flower, who was lying next to Zhang Yi on the sofa, suddenly became alert and vigilant. And as it raised its head, it stared out the window, making noises. Seeing this, everyone felt tense and quickly turned to look outside. Flower, with the instincts of a mutated creature stronger than humans, often noticed things that humans didn't. Outside the window was pitch black, with only faint light on the snow-covered surface and the sound of the wind blowing through, seeming like something strange was slowly approaching. There was something coming closer from within the snow. Zhang Yi remained calm. A golden Glock appeared in his right hand as he stepped out to sea. Zhang Yi quickly unlocked the safety of the gun. So with Flower on his shoulder, he heads toward the window. Others followed suit quickly. Nobody dared to be negligent at this moment. They reached the window and Zhang Yi took out a telescope, looking outside. Finally, Zhang Yi spotted a figure wearing a red cloak in the snowstorm. It seemed to be an elderly person struggling to advance toward them, step by step. Despite this, Zhang Yi remained cautious. No one should be underestimated, even an old man, because in such a freezing winter night, not only the elderly, but even the young dared not venture out casually. Zhang Yi speculated that this might be a mutant, but it was unclear which faction this person belonged to and what their intentions were. Zhang Yi wasn't sure because he didn't detect the presence of anyone else nearby. In theory, this old man came alone, either confident in his abilities or believing that Zhang Yi and his family wouldn't act against him. Regardless, he must have some ace up his sleeve. At this moment, Zhang Yi heard Uncle Yu's surprised voice. I recognize him. He's Zhao Jianhua from Snow Worship Sect, who came to the apartment complex. Zhou Qir asked cautiously, what does the Snow Worship Sect want by sending someone this time? Everyone was clueless. After all, it was one of the 4 major powers in the city, and currently, the Snow Worship Sect was also the most mysterious and peculiar organization. Zhang Yi became serious, inevitably recalling his phone conversation with Xing Tian. However, in just less than 24 hours, Emerald Waterside Base and the Snow Worship Sect, who didn't have direct conflicts with him, were being drawn in by the Radiant Prosperity Base and Morning Dew Base. Everyone knew that, without benefits, nobody would want to participate. Therefore, Xing Tian discreetly contacted Zhang Yi to avoid war, as long as significant benefits could be obtained. While Zhang Yi was pondering, Yang Xingqian's clear and cold voice also rang out from beside him. As we know, the Snow Worship Sect is another major force in the city, always having strained relationships. If we want to break their alliance from within, then the Snow Worship Sect is the best breakthrough point. Zhang Yi lowered the telescope and said he didn't have any good feelings toward this sect either. The Snow Worship Sect was once a renowned religious sect in the era of unrestricted religion in the country, where many organizations deemed cults negative. They were greedy, blood-sucking, and caused harm to their followers, destroying their lives. Such an organization suddenly became a savior in the apocalypse era. Just a little thought tells you that's impossible. Even the 4 major bases don't like them. It's hard for me to feel any goodwill toward them. Yang Xingqian chuckled and said to Zhang Yi, however, if they have value to exploit, then we might consider it. Zhang Yi nodded, fully agreeing with Yang Xingqian's words. Cooperation wasn't based on personal preferences, but on the value the partner brought. Therefore, he patted Qinlei on the shoulder. Qinlei, go out and talk to him. Open the microphone and I'll guide you on what to say. Facing the strange elderly person daring to come here alone, Zhang Yi was unclear about his abilities, so he didn't want to risk it himself. Qinlei panicked and quickly apologized. Boss, I am the weakest. I am not the suitable choice to negotiate. Zhang Yi looked at Qinlei. In this snowy environment, your abilities can be best utilized. Rest assured, we won't let him harm you. Zhang Yi said, raising his golden Glock. If he makes any strange moves, I will immediately subdue him. Seeing Zhang Yi's resolute gaze, Qinlei could do nothing but reluctantly don his combat gear and step out of hiding. All right. Zhang Yi activated his information device to listen to the conversation, conveniently instructing Qinlei on how to communicate with the opponent. Zhang Yi instructed Qinlei, when going out, don't let him approach the defensive line to avoid him discovering our arrangement. The thick walls of snow concealed a large number of weapons, though it was hard to see clearly due to the snowstorm. Zhang Yi didn't want to take any risks in any situation. Qinlei had no choice but to step closer to the outer defensive line to welcome the elderly person across. Slowly, step by step, also, Zhao Jianhua of the Snow Worship Sect also slowly approached from hiding, through the thick layer of snow upon catching sight of a figure stepping out from behind the snow fence within his view. It was obvious to see the abnormal aura emanating from Qinlei. Following Zhang Yi's orders, Qinlei loudly instructed Zhao Jianhua to stop and not come closer. He smiled, bowing humbly. "Greetings, sir. I can see a powerful aura emanating from you. You must be a formidable mutant." These words excited Qinlei because in this hidden place, he was often not regarded as powerful, and this was the first time he had been praised like this. However, the smile on his face quickly vanished when Zhang Yi requested him to inquire about the identity and purpose of the stranger. "Why are you here and what made you come here at this time?" Qinlei inquired. Zhao Jianhua responded, "I am Zhao Jianhua of the Snow Worship Sect. I have come here under the orders of our leader to meet Zhang Yi, sir." He smiled. "But you must not be Zhang Yi. After all," he continued, his gaze seeming to pierce through space to see Zhang Yi hidden inside. "Your powerful aura makes me feel as if I'm looking at the blazing sun in my own eyes." Zhang Yi said, frowning. "This person came to find me?" "Uncle, you reminded. This old man seems to have the ability to perceive the talents of others. He has come to find me before, but I refused. However, he helped awaken another person's mutant abilities. That is indeed a useful ability, especially when combined with the blessing ability of their leader, Yuan Kongya. It's truly a perfect combination." Zhang Yi instructed Qinlei to ask what he wanted. Qinlei looked at Zhao Jianhua and said, "Our leader doesn't just meet anyone who wants to meet him. Whatever you want to say it here. We can convey your words to our leader." Zhao Jianhua was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so determined, not giving him the opportunity to meet face to face. In fact, he was not a combat-oriented mutant. Even when standing in front of Zhang Yi, he did not pose a threat. However, he greatly appreciated Zhang Yi's approach. In the apocalypse era, mutants were often aggressive, and vigilance was always a survival rule. This time, Zhao Jianhua said, "I have come here under the orders of our leader, carrying important news for Mr. Zhang Yi. 3 days from now, the base's Radiant Prosperity, Morning Dew, and Emerald Waterside will jointly launch an attack on his hiding place." Zhang Yi heard this information without much surprise. He had already known about the attack time, so the communication from Xingtian and the people of the Snow Worship Sect didn't shock him. Today, it became clear that they didn't have much time left for negotiation. Suddenly, Zhao Jianhua stood up straight and said seriously, "These despicable bandits have delusions of killing and scheming to destroy our beautiful home. They even want to deceive our leader into initiating an attack against you. Our Snow Worship Sect has always been loyal, serving the divine with love and spreading peace and kindness to the world, so we strongly oppose their proposal." Therefore, Zhao Jianhua looked deeply towards the shelter. "We hope we can cooperate with Mr. Zhang Yi." Hearing this, Zhang Yi smirked mischievously and said, "It's exactly what we thought. He was here to join forces." He thought the 4 major forces in Tianhai City are also at odds with each other. How can there be any unity and cooperation? As long as the interests are in different places, they can be betrayed for backstabbing at any time. The more they are divided, the greater our chances of winning this battle. This was perfect. On the other end, Qinlei asked, "Oh, so do you mean that you want to withdraw from this operation and not join the attack on us?" Zhao Jianhua replied that if it's just that, how can it be considered cooperation? "The purpose of my Snow Worship Sect is love and peace and to resolutely fight against all evil forces. We hope to cooperate with you to deal with the other forces. You see, unlike you, our Snow Worshippers have no background or support. Other bases fear our rise. Like you, we are suppressed by other bases and struggle to survive in the cracks. We should unite to resist the rest of other bases." Hearing this, Zhang Yi replied that if the Snow Worship Sect want to cooperate, what can you do to prove your sincerity? Zhao Jianhua said the leader knows that Zhang Yi is a cautious person. Without enough sincerity, we cannot convince you of the sincerity of our Snow Worship Sect. So this time I came here to bring you the sacred objects of the Snow Worship Sect. With this, I believe you will understand our sincerity. Zhao Jianhua showed the box and continued, "This is the sacred object of the Snow Worship Sect, Ice Soul." Qinlei was afraid and asked Ice Soul, "What is this thing used for?" Zhao Jianhua replied the function of Ice Soul is very simple. It can help people open up their spiritual potential and become mutant. For mutants, it can deeply tap their potential and make them more powerful. So with this, Mr. Zhang Yi, I think you have been in Tianhai City for so long, so it is impossible that you have not heard anything about this, right? Zhang Yi replied with a mocking smile, "Do you think I will believe your lies? There is something shameful about this so-called ice soul, right? Qinlei, tell him the exact words. Zhao Jianhua answered that ice soul is a sacred object and has absolutely no side effects. Before this, the 4 major shelters in Tianhai City had requested it from us. The revelation shocked Zhang Yi greatly. What? All 4 major bases have used this before? Zhang Yi asked to Yang Xingqin, check the information. There should be records of this. Yang Xingqin replied that among the earliest batch of strangers in West Mountain Base, 2 of them had abilities awakened through Ice Soul. It was precisely because of this implantable method of unlocking superpowers that they began to study the matter of transforming people. According to the report from West Mountain Base, this thing called Ice Soul should be cells separated from the human body. But Zhang Yi wanted to know if the Ice Soul had any side effects. Yang Xingqin smiled. According to records, the 4 major bases have all requested Ice Souls from the Snow Worship sect to create mutants. This kind of cells does not contain any harmful substances and the implanted person cannot be manipulated through the cells. She then continued, the reason why the Snow Worship sect has been able to develop to its current scale is largely due to the living space gained by using Ice Souls. Zhang Yi thought that if what is recorded were true, then Ice Soul is undoubtedly a good thing. Can people become mutants without going through a near-death experience? Or can mutants develop their potential? Does such a thing really exist? He then tells Qinlei to ask if the Ice Soul can be used by ordinary people. I don't believe there is such a good thing. And even if there is, there will definitely be side effects. Zhao Jianhua answered honestly that its effects will vary depending on the person's potential. However, they have tried it before, and although there are occasional exceptions, it will only have a weak side effect on ordinary people. Therefore, it is best to use it on mutants. After saying this, he handed the box containing the Ice Soul to Qinlei. Taking it, he asked Zhao Jianhua that wasn't he afraid that they will refuse to cooperate with the Snow Worship sect. Also, it seems that you're happy giving it away. No matter what, the result of several major forces joining forces to attack you cannot be changed, said Zhao Jianhua. Even if we can't reach cooperation, if you become stronger and kill more people from other forces, it will be a sure profit for us in the long term. Hearing this, Qinlei thought that the old guy was quite calculating. But Zhang Yi said that he understands that the Snow Worship sect wants to leverage the power of the 4 bases. But what exactly does your sect plan to do? When the time comes, we will pretend to join them in attacking your shelter. And we will work hard, pretending to attack from nearby. And once they reveal their flaws, we will stab them in the back. This did not sit well with Zhang Yi. After all, with this strategy, if something were to go wrong, what guarantee did he have that they wouldn't go back on their plan and backstab him in the end? They were playing it safe on both sides, so if things head south, they will definitely join the alliance without pretense, but if it goes as planned, then they profit with their downfall. Zhang Yi agreed to the temporal alliance under the condition that if the Ice Soul really works, then he will agree to their proposal. Zhao Jianhua was pleased hearing this. He then promised Zhang that he wouldn't be disappointed. However, now that we have shown our sincerity, Mr. Zhang Yi, we request that you also express your sincerity. Zhang Yi replied, the hardest part of the battle will be fought by them. What more do you want? You misunderstood. We do not need any supplies from you. We only hope that after winning this battle, the Snow Worship sect will be allowed to preach in your territory. For our Snow Worship sect, it is our lifelong wish to allow more people to devote themselves to the glory of the Snow God. Hearing this, Zhang Yi scoffed. Preaching? It really suits their style, but isn't it really about pulling people's heads? He then replied Zhao Jianhua that as long as they're able to successfully stop the enemy, there is no problem with the conditions he proposed. Upon hearing this, the old man replied that their sect looked forward to his good news. As Qinlei heads back to the shelter with the box, Zhang Yi was excited, thinking, now as long as the Emerald Waterside base remains neutral, there is a chance that they will not take action. The Snow Worship sect also wants to cooperate with me and backstab several other forces. The situation was getting more and more interesting. Zhang Yi met Qinlei at the entrance. Seeing Zhang Yi, he asked, Boss, how do you deal with this thing? Don't worry, just come to the door. Zhang Yi quickly replied and pulled the box in his alternate space, where he examines it. Sensing no sign of dangerous or harmful object, he took it out and opened it, revealing 2 small ice orbs.